Are you British? Oh, now I'm really pissed off. Oh, what up? I'm Xander. Have I never talked about Borderlands before? Back in 2009, this game truly was unlike any game in its time. It was helmed by Gearbox and 2K and was labeled as a big ol' looter shooter with an attitude. And with the upcoming release of Borderlands 4 in September, I wanted to take a look at every Borderlands game, at least one video a month, discussing each of the pros and cons to each of them. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go through each of the major Borderlands games, starting with the first game in 2009. Base game and key elements. While I wasn't able to get it with my footage, we start with an iconic cutscene introducing each of the characters. Unfortunately, I started this gameplay with Gabe, who more than likely skipped it, but it really was a cool cinematic showcasing each of the playable characters to the song Ain't No Rest for the Wicked by Cage the Elephant. And something I should just mention is how each song perfectly fits with their respective intros. For future reference, in regards to this playthrough, I chose Brick, the Berserker. We land right outside of Firestone, where the living embodiment of why some people can't stand this franchise comes in.
Step right up! This is the new U station!
Borderlands 2 knew to make Claptrap funny to output his annoying voice, which is hilarious because he's obnoxious in this game. He is obnoxious in this one. In the second game, they knew to give him actually funny things to say so his obnoxious voice didn't get in the way of him still being funny. Here, they just let him talk and talk and talk! He's the one who alerts us when new missions are available and where to find them. He does it like 20 fucking times each new alert. I will say I see a bit of difference in the shooting in this one compared to the second one. It has been a while since I picked up the second game, but I'm not tripping, right? The second game's aiming is way more fluid and easy to control than this one, right? For the majority of the game, I found shotguns to be the best weapon. Does hella damage, it's not like I'm not already close up to these enemies. Speaking of which, once we get rid of the enemies around, we enter Firestone where we meet our first character, Dr. Zed. Now of course, Borderlands is known for its incredible character scenes. But here's a good example for why this game is not bad, just cheap. Look at this introduction for a boss later on named Crom. It seems rushed, right? When you meet a character in Borderlands 2, you meet that character. Here, I guess it's not that the title screens aren't interesting, it's just that there are little details that could have been utilized, and I guess it's hard to bitch as they went all out in the next game. Also, bit of foreshadowing here, this guy seems like he would have an evil twin or whatever that runs a zombie island, but I don't know, just a hunch. First big pro to this game, it looks like Borderlands. What I mean by that is, it's clear this game set out to look like no other game at the time. If you took 10 games from 2009 and compared their visual styles, you would never find anything that looks like Borderlands. It just looks different, and I really like it. Once we get things running in Firestone, we set out to beat up some skags, bandits, and everything trying to kill us. Also seems like we gotta find someone named TK Baha. Who? Yeah, this is unfortunately another issue. Claptrap's not the only character who returns in the second game that isn't interesting here. Scooter's in this, he's my all-time favorite character, and somehow I completely forgot he was in it. Just listen to his voice here.
You know, Luck is an old buddy of mine. And by old buddy, I mean asshole that ruined my mom's girl party.
Now listen to his voice in the second game.
You'll never take me alive, you robotic son bitch!
I feel like the second game was more used to flesh out the little details this game didn't get down. Of course, now we gotta talk about the guns. Throughout the game, you find different guns you can use depending on your playstyle. You like sneaky and stealthy? A sniper rifle might be up your alley. You like up close and personal? Try a shotgun. If you want to get nothing done, try a pistol or revolver. I'm just kidding. With a pistol or revolver, you're lucky to get even that. Once we get through the story, we get a load of side missions, and I absolutely recommend going through these. They might seem tedious, but they all have a good merit and fun to them. Not to mention, it's easier to level up that way. Even the ones I initially didn't care for, like there's 3 or 4 missions revolving around finding Tannis' journals. At first, I found this annoying, and they were always such high-level missions too. Why? I'm finding scattered journals. But you realize by the second mission that there is a good reason for this. Not only does it give some great lore on what Pandora is and why it's the way it is, but it also gives some background to Tannis, a character they could have easily just made one note and boring. Honestly, she's the only character who's not just a drastic improvement for the sequel, she actually earned some respect from me on this one. Another mission I didn't necessarily care for was the Claptrap rescue missions. Each major area has a few of these where you find a dead Claptrap and have to locate a repair kit somewhere in the area. It's not annoying, it just ends up giving you an extra inventory space, and alright, I can live with that, but it's nothing I truly look out to do. There's also the scavenger hunt missions. Talk about annoying. You have to find an area that has 4 parts of a specific gun. I found it cool how each weapon type was represented with these missions, but this gives me a big issue that sadly hurts some of the mainline missions too. The waypoints only highlight a specific point and don't tell you how big of an area you have to search. Another thing thankfully changed in the second game. Other missions include killing something, retrieving something, burning something, and the main quest line kind of seems short in comparison. I certainly felt like this was the shortest of the bunch. The side quests are what really keep this game going. Around level 10, we get introduced to Scooter, who runs a car network called Catch a Ride, which helps with getting across the maps faster. I swear, the catch a ride saved this game. If there was no vehicle option, I had to walk everywhere, I would have gotten bored, and I'm sure others would have too. It's smart to have certain areas you can't access through the cars, making sure you can't just overkill by running over enemies. But if one enemy's too high level, like the spider ant named Widowmaker, I wanna be Winston, destroys your car or at least greatly damages it. Honestly though, it's a solid system, though the driving is kinda awkward. It was like that in the second game too, so I can forgive it. Now let's talk about action skills. Depending on which character you choose, at level 5 you earn a skill point to unlock your action skill, a special move you can do for a limited time. I don't know all of the action skills, but I do know one thing. My screen looked like this for like half the playthrough. Brick's action skill is Berserk. Anime nerds, shut up. For a limited time, I'm allowed to just go around and punch the shit out of people. It's honestly incredibly fun, though it does take a little too long for it to start up. Sometimes to be strategic, I'd start the action up just a few seconds before coming in contact with tough enemies. Man, it makes badass enemies and bosses absolutely nothing, but we'll get to that. And for the most part, it helped greatly if I got pinned with enemies. Later on, you can even get class mods that make your action skill even more powerful, and as you level up, you can attribute them to other points that make your character more powerful too. I landed on this class mod that causes a caustic explosion anytime I punch. Other than that, there's a few other things I want to talk about. Every time you get knocked down, you have a chance to get a second wind, and this was always pretty cool, but I found myself knocked down so many times and it got so annoying. Occasionally the maps got kinda confusing, but I forgave it a little bit because of how good some of these maps truly are. I will go ahead and just say the inventory system in this game is fucking cheeks. So the way that it works in this game is that you don't have a way to like store certain items, at least not what I could find. So at a random area, I would just be thinking, man, this is a really cool gun that I want, but I couldn't store items like I could in the second game, which gives you a safe. No, I had to fucking do something about, like, looking at the stats or doing something like that. That was stupid. I thought that was so silly because, like, come on. But what good are weapons if you can't use them on someone? Let's talk about enemies. Throughout the game, you come across a variety of enemies, and of course, custom to Borderlands, a slew of bosses to tread through. We'll get to the bosses later, but the first and most common enemies we come across are bandits. Bandit killers and thugs are usually the medium guys, the ones who are the most common but put up a fight regardless. Then there's the psychos, who are the easiest to kill, alongside the psycho midgets, who are just the cutest little booger blasted. Then there's badass versions of these characters, who are usually stronger and such, drop better loot. And one that I don't remember seeing in the other games, the Bruiser. Tougher guys, but have the same weaknesses. Something to remember, every enemy has a critical hit, a spot that takes the most health. My biggest issue with the bandits is that when I walk into an area and I just keep getting shot at, and even though that minimap is somewhat useful, I spend a good few minutes just looking around, having no fucking luck finding these guys. Looking like, he's in the walls. He's in the goddamn wall! Then there's the skags, little dog-like creatures that vary in how they attack you. The standard skag jumps at you, the fucks. Some skags can whip their tongue game out like they've seen Moxie. There's spitter skags that can drastically eat at your health if they get their blob representation of Burger King food on you. The elemental skags suck. I hate these fucking things. They can come out of nowhere and they can pack a punch, man. Your best bet, find a way to get somewhere they can't and just keep shooting. We move upwards to the spider ants. I swear these things were in Borderlands too, but I can't remember though. They're fine. They're not my favorite though. There's the Rack, and I don't care how annoying the skags and spider ants can get, the Rack is the worst enemy in Borderlands history. They can fly down at absolutely any given moment. You can never prepare for them because they usually attack when another enemy is already in your focus, and they come out of all directions. God, I hate Racks! Wait, ladies, hold on. There's a few enemies notably exclusive to this game. The Scythids, or however you say it, are simply my worst fucking nightmare. They're bugs that jump at you. Which asshole at Gearbox said yes? There's the crab worms, and I guess these guys weren't awful. Hell, they were only in 10% of the game. The Guardians are kinda cool, but are such bitches. They go down like nothing. And then there's the Crimson Lance. Okay, so yeah, the Crimson Lance were definitely reworked better in the sequels because here, they are such nothing characters. They're the most annoying things to get in my way, but dude, when you compare them to the crystal sizers that rush after me, I'm not threatened by these knockoff Brotherhood of Steel, trust me. Okay, I think I've covered basically all the major enemies, but what are enemies without the bosses? Boss Doss. First up we have Nine Toes. I don't even want to know why he's named that, and he's alright but way too hard to beat for a first boss. Even then, I had more trouble with his pet skags than anything else. Sledge is another kind of weakly built up boss. Not that they didn't say that he was a guy we had to fear, contrary, there's a set of missions with him in the front of the titles, but he's not even that difficult. I died once to him and really pulled a I understand now. Mad Mel was kind of cool. The whole build-up for him was this Mad Max style level, and he's easily the boss I had the toughest time with. But Crom goes right back to the land of lame, where the build-up to him is great, but once you reach him, he's not that tough and goes down easy. The Cobb brothers are kind of cool, but standard bad guys. The Rat Hive is cool, but is the boss that made me realize the bosses don't regenerate their health after you die like they do in the other games. Man, my Mad Mel efforts were pointless. Hans and Franz are kinda weak, and Baron Flint ain't nothing special. I completely forgot Master McCloud was supposed to be a boss. He's super easy to beat. And finally, Command at Steel. Sorry, I just can't do it. I can't say she's the big bad. No. She actually gets killed off, and it's the Wall of Flesh from Terraria. I don't know. The Destroyer has to be the lamest payoff for a final boss because, like the Rackhive, their health stays the same if you die. Also, he is too damn easy. I had more struggles with Nine Toes, dude. Overall, the bosses don't stick with you because outside of the two big ones in Mad Mel, they aren't challenging. You can just beat them up with Brick's special attack. I don't know, they're not the worst bosses, but I wasn't too big on them. Now let's talk about some Borderlands. While Borderlands certainly was never the most lore-heavy game series out there, it's all about subtlety. For this section, I'll discuss basically the setting alongside the backstory for as little as there is. Each setting is kind of like a Mad Max dystopia, all kinds of junk piled up and usually bleak to look at. You first arrive at Firestone, and at first, I got tricked into thinking this was the sanctuary of this game. What I found was that it's actually just kind of like when you get to Claptrap's hideout in the beginning of the second game. A nice leadway to the actual town you'd come across later. The majority of these Badland areas are a bit repetitive, as you see with a lot of the settings in this game. The Doll Badlands were way more interesting, as it leads up to Mad Mel, and it's the closest I may ever get to playing the Mad Max game. Unless you want me to. New Haven is a cool enough town, but I prefer Sanctuary. It gets easy to get lost in the labyrinth of walls. The other settings kind of mesh together. The caves are kind of cool, but that's about it. The last place we go to before the final boss is this winter area, which is funny because it doesn't snow anywhere else in this game. I do kind of hate that this game didn't have the variety, as I feel like Borderlands 2 had way better settings and atmosphere. Characters and writings and shit. As I mentioned earlier, the characters in this game are a bit weak in comparison to the next game. Claptrap is more annoying than anything, as he has to announce everything when it happens. Multiple times, actually, across multiple places. It gets old quick. Scooter isn't even that funny. He just kind of shows up at random moments, gives you a few quests, tells you how to fuck off. Marcus is in this. That's about it. Tannis is fine. Like I said, she was the only consistently good character from 1 to 2. Commandant Steel, I'm not repeating myself. My problem with the characters isn't that they're necessarily annoying, but the game clearly got its stride with its humor in the sequel, so these characters who are funny don't shine the way they do in future installments. The writing is not bad, it's just incredibly simple and to the point. To be fair, I don't think Gearbox wrote this game with the intent of, say, 3 mainline sequels or 4 spin-off games, just an estimate. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts on the base game. Conclusion of the main conclusion. Yeah. Overall, the base game of Borderlands isn't bad, it's just incredibly simple and to the point. And with how the other games expanded on that, this didn't have to be that special. I think for its base gameplay, it gets Borderlands down pretty well. The story can be kinda jumbled, and by God, the boss fights are just nothing special. But I do have to give credit where credit's due. This game was a mess, but it set up one of my favorite messes in video game history. And I mean that in all the right ways. It wasn't anything masterpiece worthy or even a game I would look back on with fondness like the others, but for all of its flaws, it's certainly a better game than it could have been. It's just incredibly bland in comparison to the others. While it didn't break any records, I still think the first Borderlands holds a special place in many fans' hearts.
This game has one of the best DLC runs in the entire series.
DLC, Dakin, Lettuce, and Cheddar. Yep, following the game's release in 2009, 4 DLCs released afterwards, and all 4 of them added a new area to explore and new people to blow the fuck up. First, we'll talk about the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned. This was a Halloween-themed DLC that follows our Vault Hunter going to a zombie island that apparently used to be a research area for one Dr. Ned. The entire DLC is just you going through zombies and eventually finding out, ooh, Dr. Ned is evil? Okay, it's not too shocking, but I'll go ahead and say this DLC was the single moment I realized the writers who would make Borderlands 2 so good were clearly on this team. The bandits and enemies are all replaced by zombies, and something that I didn't mention before but I wanted to mention now, in the base game you just have to shoot the psychos a couple times and they die. If you don't kill the zombie psychos in enough time, their eyes will start glowing red and they'll start running at you. Dude, it was genuinely stressful. To give you an idea of why the humor clicked with this DLC, I had a glitch happen where it showed someone was talking, but it didn't show who it was. So in this playthrough, this was my first time seeing Dr. Ned.
Sweet, you made it all the way here.
And you probably think, this game is silly, but it's not that silly, right? He pulls the mustache off and it's Dr. Zed. That would just be too dumb, right? Well, they addressed this in literally his intro cutscene.
I was never as good as my totally not made up brother Zed.
That is so stupid, it's kinda genius. Like, yeah, there is another character who just happens to look like the guy you saw in the base game. It's often said that it takes smart people to write dumb funny, and you can tell smart people were involved. Also, I really like that they didn't even try to make it subtle that Ned is evil. Like, it's not even a surprise, but that's kind of the point. Also, I knew the writing was working when they straight up addressed that Marcus is talking to someone in the opening cutscene.
Ultimately caused very bad shit.
That's a swear.
Dude made zombies, okay?
Okay, you gave the one silent person in the entire franchise a voice. Good on you, first DLC of Borderlands 1 2009. But my absolute favorite joke in the entire DLC is how we have this one journal finding mission where we get to learn more about this family guy. Who went missing while working on Ned's research. And honestly, at first, it seemed very emotional, even kind of raw for a game like this to go so deep, with a character who clearly had everything, a wife, kids, a family to go home to, when everything was over. Which makes it even more tragic when you find out he was wrapped up in something so crazy and you piece together he would never see his family again. It makes the character tragic, yet beautiful. We kill him. I'm not joking, there are 2 bosses in this DLC, and one of them has the same name as the guy we heard the story of, and we, the player, have to kill him. You might not think that's incredibly funny, but think about how someone had to make the side quest where you find these journals, which by the way, is a quest given by the guy's wife, so she can know what happened to him, just for us to kill him. The Dr. Ned fight also built on the issue I had with the base game, where the build up to the boss fight was good, but the boss itself was lame. No, he actually was kind of tough and even had 2 phases to his fight. My only complaint is that it could have been longer, as I absolutely love the location, but for the first DLC, it definitely worked and even connected the dots for the sequel's humor. Next we got Mad Moxxi's Underdome Riot. Now I like arena shooters, they're repetitive but fun, and mix the genre with one of the 3 characters every Borderlands fan goons to, and I think you got a recipe for success. I couldn't even get past the first round. I kinda suck at arena shooters, but don't worry, I can't judge the DLC just off of 1 round, so as many true gamers would do, I cheated. What, you think you can judge me? You think I care? I played the Golem game, motherfucker. I am God! Honestly, my biggest issue is that each round lasts like for 5 waves, and it just takes too damn long. But Moxxi's comments are great, and it's fun, just a little too drawn out. The Secret Armory of General Knox is, yeah, my least favorite of the 4, but still pretty good. It's got a cool location, and they finally make Scooter funny. But I'm sorry, it's just kind of boring in comparison. The enemies are a bit unfairly leveled, and I'm sorry, the new weapons just aren't worth it. Also, why are we focusing on the Crimson Lance again? Did you think you had Handsome Jack? You didn't have Handsome Jack. The final one is Claptrap's new robot revolution, and at first I didn't think much of it until I found out the enemies are Claptraps. That is genuinely a miracle in disguise. So I can't say all 4 of them are masterpieces, but each of them did bring something to the table. I like the atmosphere and humor of Dr. Ned, I like the arena gameplay of Underdome Riot, General Knox has a really good final boss, and Claptrap's Robot Revolution is just funny. I don't have a special reason for that one. So yeah, the DLC run was pretty dang good for the first game, not as good as the second game's, but still a decent run when you consider, well, the third one. The final part, I swear. Okay, so I can't say the first Borderlands was bad, far from it. I just can't say I connect with it the way I do the second or even the pre-sequel. I enjoy little things like certain side quests and occasionally interesting boss fights, but considering where this franchise ended up, I really need more out of this one. It's not the worst Borderlands, not by a long shot, and I can absolutely forgive its flaws since the game we got after it was so fucking good. It may not have been my favorite of the franchise, but considering what would come of it, I can forgive it enough.
No, that ain't no